We're making a series of 6 short videos for us as a church family, outlining some of our thinking, some of our observations of the moment, our expectations, particularly our prophetic sense of what it is that God is doing in this very strange, unprecedented time that we live in. The story of the moment, in fact, isn't one about coronavirus and how governments are scrambling for a response. The story of the moment is one about Jesus and his kingdom breaking into our lives personally, into our families, our streets, our neighborhoods, our workplaces, breaking into our town and the nations of the world. The reality is that as much as nations fall over and crumble and change, the kingdom of God is unchanging. But it is a kingdom that advances, and it is advancing at a rapid pace into the world in which we live. And as a team over the past number of months, we've really been living with this sense of God speaking to us about the future, God calling us to engage, to think about what is our posture, how do we show up in the town in which we live to meet the need and heart of Swindon, to meet the need and heart of people who are without hope, without God in their lives. How do we present and bring the person of Jesus Christ and the good news of his gospel into the lives of those in our community around us? And so we're going to be engaging with some of our thinking as a team, because what we want over the coming weeks and months is that as a church family, we are on the same page, that we are navigating these strange days together, that we are living with a shared perspective. In fact, we want us as a community to respond to what God is doing and to his faithfulness to us. You'll hopefully remember as a church, we've lived with a prophetic word that came to our wider family of churches about 18 months ago about entering into a new era. I believe God is taking us into a new era. It's not a change of season, as it is not something we have experienced before. New eras present a total change of landscape, which brings about such a significant change in the mode of operation. Seasons are recognizable by those who've experienced them before, and one can find yourself back at the same point. A new era is something totally new. When this prophetic word first came to us, we never thought that a new era would look anything like it does at the moment, but here we are. And if one thing is clear, it's that to move forward in God's purposes, to move forward as a church family, engaging with our town is going to require a totally new mode of operation, a totally new mindset than what we've had before. Just recently, I was watching an interview by Tim Keller. And in this interview, Tim Keller was talking about his observations of society, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, and the transformation, the change of worldview and societal change that has taken place. And in this interview, he talked about 3 things in particular that have shifted. The first being around identity. The second being around the driver in society at large for social justice in a way that hasn't previously existed in previous generations. And then the third change he was talking about was the demographic change taking place in Western cities today, of cities becoming vastly multicultural places, that primarily in the days ahead, cities will be multicultural in the Western world. And his point was this, that the church needs to retool itself to be effective in its mission of engaging towns and cities and villages in which we live with the good news of Jesus Christ. And in fact, we cannot take our old mindsets and our old models forward with us in the days ahead. And that sense of the prophetic word of a new era and Tim Keller talking about the church needing to retool itself, I really believe is at the heartbeat of what God is doing at the moment in his church. He is radically shaking up his church. He is mobilizing his people, not just to wait for people to show up and come to us, but he is mobilizing his people to go and show up in the towns and cities in which we live. And so for us, Gateway Church in Swindon, that means that we are to live with a vision that Swindon would come to life in God in the days ahead, that the city would wake up to God and His love and His purposes, that defines how we gather, how we worship, how we posture our hearts, that defines the new way in which we shape ourselves as we begin to talk about regathering in the days ahead. We cannot go back to how things were before. God is doing something totally new. And my heart and our heart as a team is that we posture ourselves ready to catch a breath of God, to be empowered by His Spirit, to be a supernatural people on mission. Our God is a supernatural God. It's the only thing He knows is to be supernatural and to do supernatural. And so my heart through these videos is that we convey some of our thinking, some of our expectation for the future, some of our readiness to reshape ourselves, to retool ourselves for this new era that we are living in, that we would have faith and expectancy that God is on the move, that His kingdom is breaking out among us, even where we're having to radically rethink and change how we do church at this moment. So I hope this is a bit like a journey for us over these coming videos, that it helps us begin to engage and think through ahead, not to pine after what once was, but to believe God for a new era where we see Him glorified and the town of Swindon come alive in Him for the joy of the town and the glory of God. So come with us on this journey. Look forward to catching up soon.